Just clicking the right buttons to start the sharing. So thanks for having me. I'm still delighted to be part of your Mountaineer cohort and be able to present here the topic that I have, which is really something that speaks out of my heart and the customer that we're talking here about out of the automotive industry. So short to me. So my name is Stefan Schmitt. As you said, I'm based in the Stuttgart area with IBM. I'm one of the lead architects around the HyperProtect services, which is a family of services, which I will talk a little bit over the next 20 to 30 minutes about. So what are we really talking about? So this is really about how a company that is really interested about the confidentiality and visibility of their data can put that into a cloud, and in this specifically into the IBM Cloud. So this is a blueprint based on a real customer where we are currently talking to get which we have already as a customer, but I just cannot share the name. So just theoretically talking about the situation here. So what do we have? So really a lot of customers, as soon as it goes to data and cloud, there was already in many of the companies out there a movie where all of the probably engineers and projects have a little bit of you could call it sometimes a horror movie or a crime scene movie where it is called the cloud risk process. So where security is looking at the cloud and the services and the risk associated with putting elements into the cloud and what is there. Now the sequel to this is data cloud. So not only can I trust the cloud to run my enterprise in, but as well, what kind of data can I put into the cloud? Where am I really concerned of, and what is it that I'm really wanted to protect? Where are my crown jewels within my company? And depending on the company, those crown jewels are different. So it could be really like intellectual property, new cars, everything around it, but it could be as well fleet data or something like that. So this is really where IT security and legal is taking a big role, and this is an origin film of I think many of the customers out there, or many of you as well out there, have already heard of or are playing a role in some kind of. So what are we really talking about? So classically, you have your data, you have your runtime, you have your data center, you have it running on a secure platform, you want to gain visibility to some elements, like everything that you're doing normally in any kind of development project at the moment. But you have as well threats. So you have external threats, external hackers, and there are a lot of good ways of dealing with that. So if you take everything what is discussed and recommended by the OWASP group, or other elements that you can check to harden, to protect your environment from external threats, and allow to have the good content coming through what you want to have. In addition, you have what is inside of your company, so the people who are operating the system, and as well there is a lot of experience, a lot of control about how you can protect the data, what you can do to minimize the risk and ensure that only those who have need for getting to data can get to data. There are a lot of good examples out in the wild how that not had went good, but we all learn from it. But now we are in the cloud. So in the cloud there is another point coming to it. So it's not only your employees running your system, there is as well the cloud provider. And if you look at the majority of the cloud providers are US-based companies. So there are able to be subpoenaed by the U.S. government. And this is really a thread where legal of this customer was really concerned about, that IBM could have been forced to hand out their data without they know about it to U.S. government or any other government agency. And this is where really the movie starts, or the part starts about the discussion. So if you talk about between a project view about how you develop something, how you operate something, and compare that with a legal view, usually you want to have a project, you want to use as much as possible from a cloud to reduce your daily pain, to use services that are managed by somebody else so that you can take care about adding additional functionality, bringing additional value for your customers, and less do on daily operations about hardware, software, CVEs, and all that stuff. So you have on this way, on the management side, you have from not managed, which is probably you run it on your own, to fully managed, where a cloud provider is providing everything for you. But on the legal side, you have a black-white, yes-no situation on the isolation between, is there the chance to get to data, which is assured at the moment by operational security. So operational assurance, there are a lot of compliance frameworks out there where all of the major cloud vendors are applying to. This is state of the art. This is what everybody has. There is processes available and in place that ensure that only the right people are getting to the data, but they're only processes. On the second part, this is something that is now new to the game. It is what we call technical assurance, and let me dive into that a little bit more. So if we take operational assurance versus technical assurance, operational assurance, as I said, is based on trust. There is a contract, there is trust between the cloud provider and the customer on that cloud provider, that through visibility, through controls, through trust and through contracts, the processes are being taken as they are. But there is, of course, in this case, there is a chance, depending on how, the government and where the elements are running, that there could be somebody forced to break those policies. On the second part, there's the technical assurance. In this case, it is really, like I said here, IBM cannot access your data. So this really means there is a technical element in the system, there's technical proof in the system that the IBM operations team is not able to get to your data. So either they are completely encrypted, the runtime is completely isolated, there is technical within hardware, within components encapsulated, that it is not possible for an IBM operations team to get access to your data and to sneak out anything out of this system by any technical means. Only the customer who has the real need is able to get to it. So how did we deal with it with that customer? So of course it sounds simple. It is through encryption. So in this case, you have data plus a data encryption key that allows you to encrypt the data that is stored somewhere in the cloud. But where and how do we manage and provide the data encryption key? Now, in this case, the state-of-the-art technology or principle behind it is through envelope encryption. That means beside the DEK that is used to encrypt the data, you have as well the DEK itself wrapped or encrypted with a customer root key. And the customer root key in this case is really a key that is highly secured or should be highly secured and stored in an environment where it is not being exported. So this is the main part about customer root key, it is stored usually in a KMS HSM, where it is not being exported in clear, only encrypted or similar. And together, the customer root key plus the data encryption key create a wrapped data encryption key, and this wrapped data encryption key can be used by a data service to unwrap the data. What this means in the end is the data encryption key is only used for a short period of time to decrypt or for using to unlock the data. After that, already forgotten or withdrawn from memory from where it is used, and only the wrapped DEK is being stored with a service to have it as a reference. With that as well, the service then the service will go to the validation service for validating the DEK using the customer root key. And this gives the control back to the customer. So the customer owns the customer root key. It is a simple concept. And as soon as the customer root key is deleted, the data is no longer accessible. So if the customer owns the customer root key, it can delete it, recreate it, and by that react simple and easy to potential threats that are happening in the system from outside, inside, or as well in this case from the cloud provider. But coming to that, that's not even necessary from a cloud provider perspective.
Stefan,
yes.
May I ask a question at this stage?
Sure.
This is Reto. I think it's one of the key slides you have shown. Maybe can you go back to that? Yes. This customer root key. Who is handling this? So when you talk about the customer, is that a responsible person of a company, or is that an expression of kind of a technical expression, or is that a private individual?
Again, in this case, so usually we see that within the central IT department of a customer or a special security team inside of the customer that are handling the customer root keys. But let me get a little bit forward. There's one slide that goes a little bit more into the handling of the keys and the persons. So I have one slide because there's another key coming into the game, which is the master key. Okay. And this is really in this case the change of the definition. So if I take it here, so if you take what current cloud providers are providing and what IBM has as well is what they call bring your own key. So a customer brings their own key into a shared HSM, which in this case allow data services to wrap and unwrap the elements. The key part here is it is a shared HSM. So by policies, or by operational policies and operational assurance, the cloud provider is not using the master key of the HSM to decrypt the customer root keys of customers, because it would not be a good idea, but it is technically possible. If we now take what we have added to the game is, if I talk a little bit more about key management, is the HyperProtect crypto service. The HyperProtect crypto service provides a term that we call keep your own key. And keep your own key differentiates from bring your own key, that all keys, so the master key, the customer root key, and the data encryption keys are all in the hand of the customer, and the cloud provider, in this case IBM, has no chance for getting to those keys by any means. So they are stored in a FIPS 142 level 4 HSM. This means this HSM is tamper-proof and tamper-protected. So if IBM wanted to read data out of that HSM, it would delete itself. So this is really, level 4 is the highest one that you can get free available in the cloud and in the public market available. So, and this is where we are getting from operational assurance, that is Key Protect, which is the bring your own key solution inside of the IBM Cloud, to technical assurance, which is the HyperProtect crypto service that provides you that. So you just have to keep with me for one more slide, and I think one or two slides, then I'm coming to the persons and the flow. So how we do that, just one part I need to bring is the IBM Secure Service Container. So on Linux, there is a partition type that's called Secure Service Container. The Secure Service Container allows us to take a base operating system, management, backend API, application interfaces, and then have solutions and applications running inside of this green box without having any SSH or root access to any of those layers. So there's only a whitelisted REST interface that allows general operational elements like starting an instance, stopping an instance, seeing how many instances are running, and low-level management capabilities that are only there for operating instances but not accessing data. And this is where really the magic happens inside of this container. And if I say solution application, the key management system that we are talking about is an application, a solution that's running inside of here, and the customer customer has the ability to get information from this container, but IBM is not. And just we'll go shortly over this one, because the next one is the one, Reto, you had a question to. So if I take the complete life cycle of keys here. So I said the HyperProtect crypto services gives like a blank slate of an HSM to the customer. This really means it is empty. There's nothing in there. The first step that usually, in this case, the security team or a central IT team needs to do is to create and assign the master key into this domain, and with that bring it to life. This is done using general agreed elements like you have master key parts, you separate the master key parts over multiple persons to protect the master key so that not one person has the full key, you only have parts and they need to come together. There are ways to getting it into the system by separate user management. So as well, this user management here is separated from the one of the IBM Cloud to ensure that we have the highest level of separation available. This talks directly to the crypto card using REST interfaces through a secure channel, and allows a more security central IT team to imprint the base HSM. From this point off, it could be that you have if we talk about multi-cloud or customers that have hybrid cloud like on-prem elements and cloud elements, it could be that customers have an HSM already locally, and this one is the central one that should be used for key management. So it is possible to use this on-prem HSM to push customer root keys and data encryption keys into this dedicated store using the REST APIs available here, or there's as well the ability to upload them through a CLI interface or through the web UI. But in this case, this here could be, depending on the classification of the data, the owner of the customer root key could be an application team, could be a central IT team, could be a security or a legal and compliance team. Reto, did this help your question?
I just turned out from mute. It helps a little bit for me to understand, because I'm not really too much involved into technology. But when I just try to figure out what happens if there are issues, like we need to reverse a process, etc. How is the process to do that if somebody went wrong, etc.? Maybe Christoph, yeah. Christian, sorry. Also,
yeah, I'm not sure if I got your question, but on the revert the process. So in this case, this is the service that we're talking here about is a KMS system. So you have ways of revoking a key, recycling a key, and this will be notified as well to the data services that are using those keys, and it is as well audited inside of the systems, so that there is a real life scenario view of when was the key used where. But we can let me try to go through it, and we can as well take that offline, and I can provide a little bit more as an answer to the YouTube part or in separate documentation.
Right. Is there another question from my side? Is how does it apply in a real life situation? Also, where in what territory is that especially required, this setup?
So in this case, the customer that we worked here with explicitly for this here, and we worked really hard and on a deep level with their security and compliance team, was it was about fleet data within the automobile industry. So there was really the type of data where they had some fear if that gets sucked out of the system by the cloud provider at large. So there are multiple companies that have similar data like that. So it's not just like payment or personal information data, which from in the health industry would be definitely a good one. We are as well taking the same approach here for banking industry. So in case of securing bank data of bank customers in a way that the cloud provider is not able to get to it. There are certain regulatories in the banking industry where with that part here, we support and help actual banks there, and this really helps from a compliance and security perspective, because what the important part is, you use it for encryption, but there is no chance for somebody else than the customer to get to all of the keys and use them. So there's not a chance that the cloud provider could trick itself into the system and steal the data and use use it for other means, like giving it to a government or having employees that use it for other purposes as well. So in this case, it's really the use case of the customer was to protect data where they have a strong classification inside of their environment that says those data are not allowed to go to the cloud if it is not ensured that nobody of the cloud provider can get access to it. And this is coming to the management versus legal view, because In this case, we have the HyperProtect crypto service, which is what we call here partially managed, and this is because of we don't have the master key of the system. So if there are issues within the system, like if there are in certain situations it might be necessary to re-import the master key, this is nothing that we can do automatically. This is something that is in the hand of the customer, versus KeyProtect, which is the bring your own key solution, is going more into the sweet spot area by adding transparency, but it cannot provide the technical assurance. Now, how does it look like on the data side? So here the picture is similar. So we have data that either where we can ensure or we cannot technically ensure that IBM has theoretical access to the environment. How this could look like from a data separation perspective, just a short example here. You see inside of this secure service container we have databases running. So in this case Postgres and Mongo, and all of the data. So the data inside of the database are only available for the customer. The audit and DB log information are as well only available for the customer. Everything where IBM would have access to is system information like CPU consumption, overall memory consumption, to help and assist the customer, and as well log information of the overall system. So we know how many DB clusters are available. We know if the cluster instance of this customer is still running, even if we know that it's running, but we don't know what's running inside of it. So if issues happen that it is as any other service in a cloud environment, or what you would expect within a managed service, there is another team taking the burden of keeping the lights on. But we have no ability to add additional elements to the system. There is no SSH into it. There is no high level or super user authority that we can get into the system as it is running here under Linux One platform inside of the cloud. For time, I just jump over this here as well. This is similar to the crypto. The message is really we have, in this case, the customer has the ability to choose which data is high protected or needs special protection, and which data is not on that level. And based on that, the customer has the choice to define between operational and technical assurance, and between how much management he gets and how much management he needs. From a blueprint perspective, so bringing all of those elements together, you see there is the ability to have a high secure key management inside of the IBM Cloud that allows customers to store their data and sleep well with it, because there is no ability for IBM as the cloud provider to get to the data, and as well have the choice between the high secure, medium secure, and less secure data to store within storages where they fit best, and with that have a good cost mix as well from a customer perspective. So in this case, we want to transform the discussion around the legal project view discussion, so that it's not an either or. It is the customer can choose the right tool for the right usage. In this case, adding transparency, so the customer always knows what is happening. Even with the technical assurance part, we are providing the similar level of audit information directly to a customer, so that they always have the information. And with this, we are rolling out a new movie into the theaters, which is around the hyper-protected superstars around here. just finally, what we have here in this case, we have one for compute, we have one for databases, and one for protecting and providing a keep your own key solution within the cloud provider. With that, I would want to thank you for having your time. I definitely went over, and sorry for that. But if there are questions, I will stay in the chat, or if there are questions now, we can just take them now.
Thank you very much for this presentation of this very important service. All who really want to get rid of all these backdoor services, they are happy about this. How can a normal guy profit from that? Is that just via a company that really treats this very well, or is that also solutions that a small scale company, a KMU, could profit from this level of or this grade of services? Also, I understood it's for automotive industry, but is it also possible that you can plug in as a light version like that?
Yes, you can. This is not only for big customers. So we have a program currently with 15 startups that we started end of last year, and how we show them how this helps them within the fintech, health tech industry. And just that was the industry that we have chosen for that program. But everybody who has the need for a higher level of security of certain elements of data can plug this solution simply into its architecture. There is nothing. It is a cloud service as other cloud services. So you can go to our cloud. You can build your solution. You can as well start with. If I take the Key Protect and crypto service example, you can as well start with Key Protect and then grow into HyperProtect if you see that you have now really high-level security needs, because the APIs are the same. The APIs are the same, so it would be as well from a development perspective just a simple configuration that you talk to a different endpoint and get the keys from a different environment. And as well with the database is growing with the need that you have, because that's the cloud model that we provide here. And right, so I mentioned it's Z, so it's Z Linux 1 that we are based on, but that means we have installed it, we maintain it, we have that running in the cloud. So we really have the IBM mainframe provided and installed and maintained inside of the cloud, and provide that higher level functionality without getting the complexity.
Okay, thank you very much, Stefan. That was a very good insight into this architecture that is very, very important in my view, just to bring back some qualities that has been lost by some big tech companies create. If there are no questions, I just want to tell the viewers that it's possible to use the chat. We have a chat function, or we have an FNA function where you can send questions. And I understood that you, Stefan, would be available for bilateral questions, etc. Is the presentation, is that somewhere available, or would?
Yeah, I will send you the PDF afterwards.
Okay. Perfect. Okay, Christian.
Well, I found it super interesting. It's always very interesting to see what's happening in the background, all the developments that are being made to make the IT space more safe. And yeah, not a whole lot of people get to see this kind of information, I think. Yeah, that's super cool.
Great. Thank you very much. just a second. Belgium. We're going to go now to another topic with one of our leaders in the space of snowboarding. That's Vitus Amman. I would like to invite Vitus to do an introduction yourself, and then say some words about you, and then pretty much start with your presentation. Vitus, are you here?
Yes. Hello, guys. I'm here.
Oh, okay.
At least I have dressed as the real CryptoMountain would take place. It's cold outside, but only raining, so I'm missing the nice snow here, but nevertheless, happy to join you. Yeah, I think it's also my fourth CryptoMountain experience, always with Reto, lots of time with Christian, and was always fun. I really miss that opportunity today, or this morning and tomorrow morning, and whenever we were planning to do it. I used to work in the Crypto Valley for the last 5 years. I have been working for the last 5 years. Crypto Valley started with Monetas, with famous Johan Gever, gave us in 2014 in this space. I'm not a techie by nature and education. I'm coming from the marketing side. Used to work 20 years for Unilever, in the finance industry for the credit card business, blockchain, and now I'm heading the blockchain network group within the SBB since 2018. And I've gone through the program looking for how blockchain could be used in public transport. And if you bear with me, I would give you a short introduction, what we have been doing, what we are actually now putting into practice, and what the next steps are, where we want to go.
Okay, that's fantastic. Maybe you can just share your slides. Okay, we see it. That's fantastic. Thank you very much. Let's go.
Okay, so let me see that I get my presentation right here. Okay, yeah. Yeah, so basically I quickly go through what blockchain is at SBB, or how we did care about it. Then the main topic, as you announced it, are the decentralized certificates. We have introduced them into a prototype for access to the Gotthard base tunnel. Then I will share some thoughts on SSI, the self-sovereign identity, the principle, and how we are going to proceed with that at SBB. And last but not least is the pledge to build the community further, and eventually there are also interested people within the CryptoMountain rock community which want to join one way or the other. So what did we do? So it started as a lot of technologies which we are observing at SBB, like IoT, like machine perception, like big data, and so on. There's kind of in the early starts, there's a technology dossier, there's a technology radar, which is basically run by people who are interested in it. So there's nothing top down, but rather bottom up. I mean, there's an IT department of 1,200 people at SBB. It's one of the biggest IT company actually, and there are many other techies in other areas of the group, where a lot of technologies are actually being having had on the radar. And in 2015, some guys started the blockchain radar, and it was just at the hype of the blockchain prices, or the hype of the crypto hype, at the heat of the hype, when Andreas Meyer, the CEO, came back from a meeting in Zug and said, "Hey guys, something important is happening here. We need to understand what that is all about. What are the strategic opportunities? What are the threats? And how can we use it within our sphere of activities?" Then the blockchain feature team was formed. That is a kind of a special group which has a kind of a task force, if you wish. I then, in the midst of the year, I joined that team, and we basically went through all the divisions of the concern and presented what blockchain is all about, what it can do, what potential areas could be. We did workshops to get potential use cases onto the plate. And we got about 35 ideas in those workshops, and we selected some 10 proof of concepts, or 10 ideas to have a proof of concept, based partly by the business value, but also to get to know all aspects of the blockchain technology. So such as private and public blockchains, smart contracts, tokens, whatever you want to have, so that we got a good understanding in practice actually of what the blockchain is able to do and what rather not. Next to that, we joined the blockchain community, so I still kept a foot in the Crypto Valley and in the CryptoMountain group. We had a formed the blockchain network group, which basically comprises all the interested people in that technology in all over the concern. So it's like a tribe, if you wish, when you have the agile organizational principles. We did those POCs, and in last year we went into prototyping. We basically choose one, which I will then later go on. And now we are in the phase of transferring what we've learned into the group. Key benefits, probably not surprising to anybody in this group. The two main advantages are the common immutable truth without the need for central databases, and the peer-to-peer transaction possibilities via tokens and smart contracts without the need to have intermediaries. So that potentially could lead to disruptive business models. Now, what you are also best aware of, which in the startup scene is not that much of a problem, but if you have an established industry that are really some showstopper in different areas like technology, like legal, performance and efficiency is there. Very much is the issue of trust, which we discussed at last year's CryptoMountains very deeply. What is the accountability of a flawed code? We have no trusted currency yet on the system. But what probably in established organization is the most bearing obstacle is the organization itself. So we are not used to the thought of decentralized systems. Most of the companies, especially in the industry, they are very centralized, they are very top-down organized. So that requires a fundamental rethinking of the processes, the responsibilities, and the tasks which are therein. And what's more, cross-company collaboration, which basically is the basics of any kind of blockchain application, is not that much advanced in traditional industries. So that in combination with an unknown technology does not really help promote these new technologies. So we as other came to the conclusion, as also Gartner mentioned it last year, that pure blockchain models are not ready yet. Not even in the mobility as a service area, which basically seem to be a natural fit, but there the readiness is far too low in order to go ahead. So, okay, we don't need to rush into blockchain immediately, but there are some very interesting principles which can help us not to form new business models, but to create much more efficient intra and inter-company processes. Again, we have the common immutable truth. We have formed that. You see the green part. I think I can do a pointer somewhere. Here, yeah. Where is this? Where's the pointer? No, it's not here.
I believe a cursor is okay.
Huh?
If you don't find it, a cursor is fine. Yeah, we see it. Yeah, we see.
Okay, cool. Yes. So we have to come in. So we have kind of log files. I just come to explain why we do need that, and more so we have digital identities for people, organization. We have mature technology with a public key infrastructure, and we can have decentralized digital certificates. And we basically moved that into a prototype access to the Gotthard base tunnel. Now, that sounds probably a little bit theoretical, but let me show you what happens in the tunnel. The tunnel, as I learned, is not just a hole in the mountain, but there are actually 179 doors leading into the tunnel, different rooms which we have therein. So if you see, so that is the operations center, then the normal entry which everyone can see, but you have a lot of rooms therein with special equipment for security, for electricity, for maintenance, and so on. And the problem is we need to know who is therein, and furthermore, we need to know that the right people with the right qualifications are especially in the security critical rooms therein. So there we saw a good application of decentralized technology, because more than half of the people working in this space or in these spaces are not employees of SBB. So what we basically need, we need to check whether an electrician here is entitled to go into the room and whether he has the right qualifications to do any type of work in this room, because basically they go at night, they have a time slot of 4 hours, they need to go in, need to do the work and go out again. So, and we basically, the target was to make the doors as smart as possible so that the doors can check whether they should open for the appropriate people. So what we said, we created, we called it LAPIS. It's from Latin, which means stone, but it also was the checkpoint at the border. So when the Asterix and Obelix wanted to enter the Roman Empire, they had to show their certificate that they are allowed to travel within the Roman Empire. So we called it LAPIS. It's a technical solution basically to issue, to store, and to check verified claims. They are digitally signed and they are in a decentralized system. So what are decentralized digital certificates? It's also called verified claims, and basically that's all what I can pretend to be able, or to be allowed to. So that I am Vitus Amman is a claim which I do. Now, I don't know Stefan Schmitt, but probably Reto or Christian could testify to him that I am actually Vitus Amman, because they got to know me earlier times. I am an employee of SBB, so the SBB can confirm that. Then also I have diplomas, certificates, I have medical certification, I'm coronavirus free, for example, or I have a certain role or function which can be testified by any superior organization. And I'm allowed to enter, that's an access, it's a very easy one, or to operate an equipment, or I'm allowed to issue a certificate. Now, we have started to do that with UPort as the Zuger, the e-identity of the Stadt Zug was based upon. It did not work out very well, but so we moved to the public key infrastructure, as that was a proven technology to use for. And how does that work? Basically, you have an application which issues certificates. So that could be the Pass Bureau, or that could be a medical institution. They are issuing certificates which are going into the e-wallet of the person. And then we have the asset owner, so here the operator of the tunnel, who says, well, I need to know who this guy is, and I need to know whether he is healthy and whether he has an access document to the tunnel. And then he basically has a list of certificates and which issuers he is accepting for that. So the door is then basically checking whether the guy who wants to get in has the required certificates. If that is the case, the door opens and a log will be created: who, when, where, with which certificates entered at which time. That is then hashed and put onto a distributed ledger in any form. So, and with that,
a little question from my side, Vitus. What is the device they have it? Is that a smartphone or what?
Yeah. The guy has a
everybody
smartphone.
has a smartphone, basically.
Yeah. And the door, there are different devices. We have static or dynamic QR codes, which basically then lead to a backend server where all the checks are basically done. And with the on the mobile phone, then the guy is asked, do you want to push that certificate to the checkpoint? And he basically says yes or no. Well, actually, if he says no, he cannot enter. But if yes, then he knows which certificates are being sent and checked for validity.
Okay, thank you.
No, I mean that's basically it. I was just wondering about the off chance that one of them doesn't have a smartphone, right?
Yeah. Well, actually, you can imagine most of them they do now have smartphones.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. As we are basing currently, we have the identity based on the SwissPass identity.
Right.
So there are solutions thinkable that he could do the same checks via the SwissPass, the plastic card, and then it would get hold of the certificates on a server. But that would then not the privacy would not that good as it is in this system. But as by now, basically, it's standard that everyone has a mobile phone. That's not a real issue. And we have different solutions here. One of them needs to be online, but not necessarily work either way around. So, and then basically what the interest was that, I mean, we are starting with the access management and certificate registry in the Gotthard and the new January-based tunnels. So that is the starting point on the health ecosystem. So if somebody needs to prove that he's capable to do work in the tunnel, he needs to have a special certificate. He needs to be able to work at 40 degrees because that's the temperature, the average temperature therein. He needs to have no claustrophobic illnesses and so on. And as we have this protocol down here, if we look at it from a people perspective, the other way around, then we get auditable lifecycle management and work protocols. So from people perspective, it's a work protocol, what he's done. From the asset perspective, it's a lifecycle management protocol. And that is basically auditable because it is put on the blockchain and cannot be changed anymore. And we have several of those working places because we need to justify vis-a-vis the authorities like the BAV that all work is being done with the right educated people. The same goes then in the end because it's not only people, it's also machines or things which can have those certificates. So it's an important feature when it comes to IoT certificates. So that imagine a sensor in a locomotive of SB who sends data about the state of the rails. We need to be sure that that is a real sensor of a real locomotive of SBB, and not that somebody hacks or intervenes with the information flow, so that any information will be put through. So that is kind of area where we initially thought where it will go. That helps, but we have now this LAPIS version 1, which is this pilot access. And this is another interesting experience which we went through. We had the pilot done, or the prototype we have done in 3 months development time. It took us another 8 months to integrate that with all the other surrounding systems within the SBB IT network, which is only affected here in the Gotthard tunnel. We needed to integrate into regular operation. That means also all the things about cyber and maintenance of the software took quite a long time. And then the integration with the access system, because actually we have to open doors. There are already electrified. So that was quite a big task to achieve. But now we have that one. Now we have one little downside. It is fixed link to the Swiss pass ID. So you need to have a Swiss pass. Well, that's true for 4 million people in Switzerland, which is a good start, but it does not allow for the time being any other identity solution, because in Switzerland, for the time being, we don't have a common identity solution. So that is a weakness. And what we saw there, we need to further develop this idea in two circles. So we have one, it was the focus of SBB, so our own ecosystem, and we need to get out to the outside world. So inside, we go a step further into details. We have one qualification by now, which is the access. And we need to be able to manage 4,800 different certificates at SBB, different educations, different courses or health system, which all need to be managed and need to be checked. And we have now a pilot at the station of Solothurn, where we do access to security critical rooms.
Vitus, may I ask a question at this stage?
Of course. Just
to make things more complicated. I could imagine when you do a tunnel like Gotthard, you have many contractors or subcontractors. Is that, what is the impact on that? Have you elaborated on that?
Yeah, that was quite important from the beginning, because we have been doing this pilot together with, I think there were 2 or 3 companies which are active in that region. And what is true for most of those companies, they are small companies, so SMEs, with a focus on S quite a lot if it comes to building. So we needed to build a system which we could easily pass on. So all the elements which I mentioned before, when I go back here, so the issuing application, the asset owner application, and the contractor application, and definitely also the e-wallet, they are all built in a way that they can be downloaded for free. We also want to put them open source, so that any company which wants to get in contact with us can use the very same tools without the need for investment. If they have already a kind of an IT system, obviously they need to kind of integrate them as we had to do, but most of them have much easier systems or lightweight than SBB has. So the idea is that this system which we see here with those 4 applications, that they can be used by anyone. And we are just about to finalize the demo version, which about in 2 or 3 weeks time, we will get out to the public so that they can use it and they can build it. So if there is a company out there, they can issue, for example, company membership certificates, so that we can check if this guy comes from Vanoli or from Schenk or whatever the contractor is there. No, that was one of the key objectives, that it is very lightweight, so that people can use it all around the ecosystem. Okay, and then there was an interesting side effect which came out as we moved to the access certificate as the first one. We felt that, well, that is a great opportunity to replace all the proprietary systems, and that is where our access management guys got really excited about the opportunities, because currently you are locked in if you have a system by Kaba, or if you have a system by Access or Salto or whoever. You have all the proprietary systems, and we have places in the main station of Zurich where at the door you have 5 different readers, because you have 5 different proprietary systems in that shop. And normally then you have also physical keys on top of that. So this idea helps quite a lot to revolutionize the access management, access systems management. Now, main thing, I think, what is really exciting is then the last one in the ecosystem. We call it the LAPIS V2, and that is the integration of global standards and protocols. And here we were very happy to see that last September, the W3C consortium, which runs all the internet protocols, they issued the first two standards or proposed standards for the DID and VISO, the distributed identifiers and the verified claims. Because the principle is the same, but it would allow to have a global standard and to accept all different kinds of identities. So let me show a little bit what we are doing with that. If you come from the identity world, then the normal thing is that we have an account at Google, we have an account at SBB, we have an account at whatsoever. Every one of us had hundreds or thousands of accounts with own credentials, and they are all one-to-one. You more and more you see this so that you have an identity provider therein. So if you are going with your Facebook identity onto a new platform, or with your Google account, you can go somewhere. And this is an interesting way. It makes it easier for the user, but also gets them into a huge data gathering. So privacy is not guaranteed anymore because this IDP sees wherever you are going. So that is not the way we think we would go. And then you have the model of the self-sovereign identity, where you basically have an issuer, and this is the same issue as what we saw in our model. We have ourselves in the middle as purple. We get the credential from this issuer, and we show it to any relying party. But we have a verifiable data registry, which can be a blockchain type solution. Sovereign is one of the well-known Hyperledger, Indy, and Aries are working on that one. And the most important things, or the interesting things, are those DIDs and verifiable credentials. So distributed identifiers are basically very interesting because they are not anymore linked to an identity. In the old systems here, you have a strong link to the ID here anyhow, and here as well. So whatever I do, it's connected with my name I've been given there. Whereas here, it's the entity which has an identifier, and basically the first verified credential is that I am Vitus Amman. So the passport is like giving me the identity card. And that makes it much more flexible and also much more usable for greater ecosystems. And there is already quite a lot of standards and different solutions out there, private and public blockchains applications like the Sovereign. I mentioned Hyperledger Indy. They are on the identifier level. They are according to those standards. Then you have the credentials. There are also different types already out there, and they also follow the same principles. So they are all interoperable already. And what's interesting now, that the newer things is with the Aries Hyperledger, that you make the communication standardized. And I think that is a great step forward, which we want now to jump on, because that is how our solution, which is now working very well in our own ecosystem and with our own partners, also to connect it to the world. And that is where we are currently just therein. Coming to the last important points about the community. So in Switzerland, there are already several groups and companies working together. We have ourselves an informal working group together with PostFinance, with Bosch, and the Phoenix system. Thomas Taroni, where we established that last year at CryptoMountains, actually. There is a proposal for an InnoSwiss InnoBooster, which is it's a new tool from InnoSwiss. There is the ZAW, University of Neuchâtel, Decentrum, Bosch, and ourselves as partners, and we have LOIs signed by a big group of people who are interested in this area. We have the Swisscom self-sovereign identity think tank. Also, with Heiselu therein, and Heiselu, that's the Hochschule Luzern, they have an interest in forming an association. So there will be quite a lot happening, and I'm quite open if there are interested people out of this round here of CryptoMountain to join this implementation, then you're most welcome. That was pretty much in a rush. I hope you got some ideas, and if there are any kind of questions, I'm very happy to answer them now.
Thank you very much, Vitus. That was very interesting, and the last part especially, because I felt that you really built to leverage that also globally. I could imagine that it could be a role model for, I mean, there are other SBB in this world, Deutsche Bahn, etc. Could imagine that there are many tunnels who you build, you have companies who have exactly the same needs. And I really can imagine that this could be leveraged as a standard.
Absolutely. I mean, it has been this W3C consortium. They have been working the last roughly 4 years on this concept. But they were, even when we looked at it 2 years ago, they were not yet ready. But now we feel it's a time that you can get the leverage. And as you know better than me, I mean, without trusted identity, you cannot do anything in the digital world.
No.
And as long as you don't have a type of self-sovereign identities, then you're always bound to those data centers or data collectors which centralize those identities. And that does not really help to push forward decentralized systems.
Mm-hmm. Great. Okay, if there are no questions, we have looked at the chat. There are no questions. I think you did a great job, Vitus, explained it very well. We're going to make a break here. Session 1 is closed. At this stage, we're going to start in 15 minutes. A good moment to grab a coffee. And you have to go to register to the next event. The next event will take place. Let me just, I have to share my screen.
Just like I mentioned in the beginning, there are 2 links for each day. So for today, there will be a second link for another Zoom call for the second topic. And then for tomorrow, it's going to be the same story.
Okay, so we're gonna go start with Uconnect with Vincent, who will talk about very fresh payment solution that can help all these crypto investors in a shopping, also to shop with crypto.
Yes, exactly.
Okay,
so
sure.
It's an enabling solution for a new type of PSP.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you very much. We leave now the room and back in 15 minutes.
See you later.
Ciao.
Good to have you guys.
So, also jetzt muss ich das ausrühren und muss das beenden.